And before we get into Les Smith, we have to thank Dirt Industries Custom Graphics for this local legend segment here on the Imperative MX podcast. From Rayford, North Carolina, Dirt Industries Custom Graphics for over 10 years have designed, manufactured, and marketed the highest quality dirt bike graphics and decals to the motocross and consumer markets. Their high-quality decals are considered by many to be the best in the industry. If you want your graphics to look top-notch, look no further than Dirt Industries Custom Graphics, and you can order all of your stuff. Look at everything that they have at dirtindustriesgraphics.com, and we have so much more coming from the Dirt Industries Custom Graphic guys, and you're just going to have to wait and see what we have. You can use code all caps no space Imperative MX to get 10% off anything off of their website. And right now we have the Dirt Industries Custom Graphics local legend all the way from York, South Carolina, Les Smith. What's going on, Les?
Not too much. How you fellas doing?
Good, man. We're good. Thanks a lot for coming on here to the Imperative MX podcast. And I don't think I ever introduced myself to you. I'm Zach Newberry, obviously, but you maybe not know me outside of Imperative MX here. But I watched you growing up, and you were someone I looked up to, and that local legend status for sure. I hated to see you kind of step away from the sport, and we will get more into that subject here in a minute. But what's going on with you now? How's life for you, Les?
Everything's going good, man. I appreciate you having me on. Yeah, I've definitely heard your name. Obviously, know Heavy D. We've all had a lot of good times together, spent a lot of good years in the sport. It was obviously a bummer walking away, but man, I'm a bigger fan now than I think I ever was. So I still enjoy keeping up with everything and seeing how everybody's doing.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So you had obviously a racing careers in the pros, and you were a top amateur coming into the pros, at least in my opinion. You had a 7th at Millville in 2012 for the outdoors on the 450, and you had a 7th in Jacksonville Supercross 2011 on the 250. And within those years, you did race pro from 2009 to 2013, and a good amount of crashes and injuries came along with it. Also, rides were slim at that time. But speak a little bit about what made you come to the decision of hanging the boots up for the listeners that may not know the full context behind your decision.
Man, it was tough, and you kind of nailed it there. Just, rides were slim. It was I kind of went into it at a bad time after 2008, but that most of that was on me. I had a lot of injuries and kept up with it for as long as I could. Was able to get on some pretty good teams, met a lot of great people, worked with a lot of great people, had a lot of fun, got to live out my dream. I got married and had another bad injury right before I got married when I broke both my arms. And at that point, again, rides were slim, man, and I was already struggling, and the injury didn't help any. And I just basically come to the point in my life where, I love it more than anything, but had to make a decision to get started with a family and go a different road. And I actually spent a little while after I was done. I don't know if bitter's the right word, but just didn't really want much to do with it. Didn't really keep up with it much, kind of stay away from it. But, man, the last several years, I listened to all the podcast stuff and keep up with it, and obviously watch it all on TV and stay pretty involved. So it's pretty fun now to keep up with.
Yeah, no, that's awesome because and good to hear. Appreciate that because when I had a professional card from 2013 to 2016, and both years I thought I was going in healthy. I did a lot of arena cross stuff. That's kind of where my top accolades come from. And man, it would be like 2 rounds and you get hurt, and you're sitting out until kind of outdoors. And for myself, I wasn't as fast as you guys, so it was a struggle to come back after injuries and to get back to 100%. And I know that had to be tough. And yeah, you were on great teams. You had the Langston Witt team. You had the Olins KTM team. You were on JGR. Yeah, you went through a lot of good teams, and I know that you met a lot of good people in the industry, and they taught you a lot.
Yeah, it really was good, man. And like you speak about the injuries, it's crazy. Anybody that's ever dealt with it, understands it, I think, to an extent. Obviously, at the professional level, it's different. But watching this past weekend when Fortner went down, and you could see him laying there and see the look on his face, man. That's such a bad feeling as a racer. You know, the pain is really no part of that at all. It's just the frustration of laying there looking up at the lights. That's a bad feeling, man.
Yeah, no, and you know, unfortunately, I think more in Supercross than outdoors. You looked at the lights quite a bit of times. Not to laugh, but yeah, it happens. And Supercross is tough, man. It really is. And for yourself, you know, you were so freaking fast outdoors, you know, around this area, you know, and to see, you know, yourself struggle in Supercross, it really gives you a outlook of how gnarly a Supercross track truly is.
Yeah, man, I appreciate the kind words there. It is. Supercross was always a very hard thing for me to tame. I always felt like I never fully had the talent for Supercross. I struggled a lot more with it outdoors. Even on a lot of my better races outdoors, you know, it was mostly the work at the end of the day. I'd run around mid-pack to the end of the moto and pick people off at the end and end up, you know, eventually where I was going to finish. But Supercross, you know, we put a lot of time, a lot of work and everything into it. And, you know, it was a lot bigger struggle for me to figure that side of it out, especially jumping up on the 450. That's a whole different animal.
Yeah, no, it 100% is. And, yeah, you know, you had good results on both, so that's something good to walk away. Now that you've been out of the sport and like myself, you know, when in 2016 I was laying there in Baltimore Arena Cross and in a corner that I pretty much separated my shoulder to the worst degree possible, and I knew I was going to have to drive home and all of that. And after that, you know, for like 2 years, I was like, man, I don't want nothing to do with dirt bikes. I'm done with this stuff. You know, I'm done playing in the dirt. I'm ready to grow up. I'm ready to kind of be an adult, take on, you know, a lot more responsibilities as far as real life goes. And no, it's crazy and wild. Which out of the teams that you were on, which one were you stoked to be a part of when you got that opportunity?
Man, I think that's a really easy one for me, and obviously it was the little bit of time that I got to spend with the JGR guys.
Yeah.
I was able to get that opportunity, and I know Heavy D knows that everybody that was involved with that was really good people, and they were all down to earth. And I really liked that a lot of them, you know, were from around here, so we all shared a lot in common. And man, those guys just went above and beyond. I really hated as a fan to see them go away, knowing how much time and work that they put in. But I would pretty easily say that that was some of my favorite times of my career.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I'm sure, you know, just being from this general, you know, North Carolina, South Carolina area, obviously just to go up to Charlotte and it be there and they had the track there. Heavy D, I know that you were around that track at that time.
Oh yeah, I was around there a lot. It's funny because like I know Les came and rode over there. He came over there a pretty good bit. I know he had your track was in South Carolina, right?
Yeah, my track was it's about 45 minutes south of Charlotte in South Carolina.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. So I remember he had his. He used to come over there a good bit and ride. Matter of fact, I remember before his first outdoor, because I was at his first ever outdoor when he made his pro debut at Budds Creek in 09.
Mm-hmm.
He was over at JGR. They was over there training and doing like a corner drill. It was pretty sweet how they was doing it, and they was timing it. And but I remember that when he was over there, and then like several years later, he ended up getting on there and riding for JGR. So I was around him a pretty good bit for that. But like you said, like everybody that was involved with that, it was sick. Like if you could have been around for it, it was actually pretty awesome. Like everybody was always pretty cool.
Yeah, I can only imagine. And you had Davey Millsaps as, you know, your teammate, so that had to be cool too.
Yeah, Davey was a character. I had known Davey for a little bit, you know, when I was with my time down in Tallahassee. Yep. And so going back around him, he's a character, but I knew what I was getting into there. But Davey and Justin both were really, really good at, you know, helping because I actually rode for Davey for a little bit, and then ended up flipping over and riding for Justin a little bit. I don't remember the order there, but both times those guys were around, and they were very helpful. And I'd spent a lot of time riding with Justin before that. So I had a pretty good relationship with him also, and it was pretty incredible, how they came together and were willing to help me out while I was technically riding their bike.
Yeah, no, 100%. The Imperative MX podcast, episode number 11, Dirt Industries, Custom Graphics, Local Legend segment. You can use code Imperative MX, all caps, no space. And, we're speaking with the local legend, Les Smith from York, South Carolina right now. And, since, we were talking about it earlier, you walked away from the sport and kind of said, screw it. I don't have to, have this shit kind of in my life. Now that, you've had time to kind of let all of that sink in and all of those emotions kind of go away, are you okay, and are you satisfied with the career that you did have?
No. I'm thankful for the opportunities that I got. I'm very thankful for the people that I met. I ultimately met my wife through the sport. So on that side of it, now we've got a little girl. I'm forever thankful, forever happy with how that all went. But I really wanted to be able to do a lot more in the sport. But the good thing is there that, I can hang my hat on. I gave it my best. I did the best I could with what I had.
Yep.
And like I said, all the folks that I met along the way, I'll never regret any of that, for sure.
Yeah, and I think that you hit the nail on the head. Even though that you are, that you're not completely satisfied, you got a lot of good things out of it. And I think that if you weren't in the sport, maybe you didn't learn all of the things that you learned through racing, through traveling, through training, through competition. All of this stuff, is good for real life. And no, like you said, it's good to have those things and those people that you were able to meet and go through. So 100%. At Loretta's, you had 3 Loretta Lynn's titles. You had 4 podiums. Which one or what year stands out to you the most coming out of Loretta's?
I believe the one that would have to stand out the most was 2007. It was the 250B title. That year, the 450 title came fairly easy. The 250 title actually had a crash in one of the motos. I forget if it was the first or the second, but
it was I put up like the second moto. You got a 4th.
Yep. I went down and had a 4th, and I think it was a 2, maybe a 3-way tie going into the final moto.
Uh-huh.
And obviously with the results that we had that week, there was a lot of pressure, a lot of people watching and that kind of thing. And it was one of those things, just on the line for that one, it was all or nothing. I remember in a weird way laughing about that one before we went down the line, like, well, here goes nothing.
Yeah.
We're either doing it or we're crashing. We got to get it done here. And of course, we come out of the start 1, 2, 3 with the guys I was tied with. So it was a long 20 minutes or whatever it is there now. But that one was pretty memorable, just with the pressure that came down to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you had Ben LeMay, Vince Freeze, you had Justin Weeks, Derek Rogers, you had Malcolm Stewart in there, Kyle Regal, Sean Lepanovich. I mean, there's a lot of good guys that were in there, and you were able to walk away with that title plus 2 other ones. So, no, that 2007 one, 100% I could see. Let's get into some local racing talk. I know that you did local racing around that Rolling Hills, Muddy Creek, Birch Creek, all of that, all of those races around there. What was your favorite track? And on top of that, what was one of your favorite battles?
For sure, Camp Coker. Hands down. I think anybody around here would probably agree with that one. Camp Coker was awesome.
Oh yeah.
As far as local battles, man, that would be hard because it was almost every weekend growing up. I tell some friends that still ride now. Obviously, it's always cooler in the old days, but man, back in those days, there was a lot of people in the local scene, and between myself and Taylor Futrell and PJ Larson, it was every weekend, man. It was just a bloodbath pretty much.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I did a little bit of research myself before this, and you can go back to the AMA rider search and look up 2006, 2009, and even that year in 2009 that you turned pro. You were at Reedsville, Rolling Hills. You were at Muddy Creek. That you were at these races, and you were racing all of the time, and that's what me and Heavy D speak about a lot here on the Imperative MX podcast, that a lot of these training facilities kind of ruined the district races and kind of the local scene a little bit. I know that you've been out of the sport. I don't know if you've been to any races recently, but do you feel that way?
Yeah, I hate to see that, because there's so much more to it than the racing and the training, which, I mean, that's obviously the biggest part of it. But these local races teach you so much with the gate drops. Not only that, the camaraderie, the people that you meet. Those are the things that I'm thankful for now. I hit a period there for a while when I first went down to Tallahassee to Ricky's place. I spent a lot of time just training at the farm, doing that program, and it was incredible. Forever thankful for it. But I did notice, as it got a little bit later on in the amateur days, right before I turned pro, I was missing those gate drops.
Yeah.
And that was just something I needed to do, to try to see. And I remember, talking to people back then, it was obviously different, but trying to find out during the week, who's going to be where and go race. And thankfully, a lot of those guys that I was battling with around here, we were friends.
Yeah.
Off the track. So, we enjoyed battling with each other. And then, especially in 2009, riding the A class, obviously starting to chase money at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
To pay some of the bills.
Yeah. No kidding. And I mean, you're having to beat some of your local legends, out there, especially in A class. And even, speaking on that subject, do you have a local legend, growing up, somebody that you love to watch racing from the local area?
Man, back when I was a kid, it was always Jim Neese, Kevin Walker, Jim Chester, those guys. That's taking it way on back. But I remember being a kid on 50, standing on the fence. We'd always go up and watch those guys do battle. It was pretty incredible to watch. And that was obviously at a local scene, more at the amateur national scene. It was Davey Millsaps and Michael Essie.
Yeah, man,
those guys, good grief, they put on some battles.
Yeah, no kidding. Rubbins racing, especially back then. And yeah, I mean, we had Kevin Walker on a couple of episodes ago. Me and Kevin go really way back, and he actually let me borrow his RMZ to go and race up at High Point for my 25 plus when I tried to do Loretta's back in 2019. And no, he's such a good dude. And Jim Neese, I trained with him for like 10 or 12 years. Did you ever go to his practice track that he had in Greensboro? It was like in an open field all the way in the back. Did you ever? I remember, I think that you and Futrell and McDade and Tickle and all of those guys would be out there sometimes.
Yeah. I didn't get to go a whole lot, but I made it up that way, I believe, a handful of times.
Yeah.
And it was normally, a situation like that when Taylor and Brock and that crowd was going to be there. And if I was home, I would try to shoot up that way and get in there and practice with those guys. That was always a good time.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that property back there, I mean, we had some great battles back there, and some local legends show up there at any given time, and one of the things that I have to say is you had some of the best looking kits. I don't know if it was just that 07 to 09 Honda with the Fox gear, but when that 108 showed up on the track with the Fox gear, I mean, you had the lick kit at that time. I don't know if Heavy D can agree or if he remembers that time, but for me, and even going back and looking, you did a lot of stuff with Verb and Wes Williams back in the day, and even watching those clips, that was some of the best gear in Fox for yourself and Futrell, and you were talking about you and Futrell and PJ, you guys were all friends. You guys knew where you guys were going to race at, that weekend, and I saw you guys majority of the time before the pro gate even dropped. You guys are talking with each other, kind of shooting the shit with each other. But yeah, man, you had some of the best looking kits at that time. Heavy D, do you remember any of those times?
Oh yeah, dude. The one of my favorite ones was I don't know if you ever noticed, but when he would wear it, you remember that it almost looked like a spider web, that white and red fox gear.
Yes. Yes.
He used to wear it, and he used to put on the white and black fox boots with the red,
Oh my
like with the red trim.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
Oh my.
That was the hardest kit. I was like, all right, he's about to work somebody today.
Oh.
Hey, they always said if you look good, you feel good. So we tried to stay on top of that. Thankfully, we had some really good people on board then with Fox and Honda, and man, those kits were looking really good back then.
Yeah, no, for that time period, we all talk about lick kits nowadays and stuff like that, and they do throwback gears and stuff. But back then, like, man, Fox had it covered at that point, because they were with Ricky and, all of that. And, no, man, it was some cool stuff. Man, Heavy D, do you have anything for Les here?
I do want to say, like, don't let them fool you. Like, when's the last time you rode? Like 2 years ago at Club, Les? Or has it been sooner than that?
I believe that was the last time I rode, and there was a good reason for that, man. I realized how far off I was. Good grief.
No, don't let him fool you. He was ripping. Look, he only had like 2 solid ones in him. But
those two.
Going,
oh, yeah.
Dude, he was hauling ass. Those 2 he had.
Oh, yeah.
He's probably going to try to disagree, but he still rips. And if you think about this, dude, that era with Futrell, PJ, Les, if they came back and had a 30-plus at Loretta's, that would be the most insane race known to man.
Oh, my gosh. Like, I remember there was, like, Justin Cooley. There was, man, you guys had to race, like, Jim and all of those guys. I mean, yeah, like
Steven Hauser.
Yeah. Oh, Glenn Balfour.
Yep, Glenn Balfour.
Oh, my gosh, man. I mean, there were so many guys.
Yep, Ryan Perry.
Yeah, that was some good times, and it's funny, Heavy, you talk about that last ride at Club MX. I was actually really starting to turn it around in my head there, and really wanting to do a 25-plus run at Loretta's. And I'd kind of talked about it with my family, and we were starting to lean that way. And I went and rode that day, and I was like, man, there's so much work to be done. I don't even have time to do it. I think it's still as good as it ever was for a couple sections, maybe even a lap. But man,
I want to say, I guarantee you, Lauren was more on board. She was probably for it. She had to be.
Man, I'm going to be honest with you. By the time that we got to the end of it, whenever I stepped away from racing, she was pretty over it. She was pretty over it with the injuries and everything that was going on. She was always there with me, always by my side, and I'm thankful for that. But around the time that I said I was done, she was too, and she does not get very happy when I do go throw a leg over a bike now. Not a big fan of it anymore.
Yeah, that was one of the things I was going to ask you. Like, do you ever just get the itch just to go and just rip the throttle for 2 laps, full speed, full send?
I get it. Probably weekly, it'll cross my mind that that I would love to do it, but I go back to probably the last 3 or 4 times that I did ride. It's so much different now. One, obviously, you get tired, but my mind is still 100% where it used to be.
Yeah.
So my body's not there, but my mind is, and I've had a couple scary moments here or there, and I'm just like, man, I've got to learn that I can't do that anymore. And everybody says, they're like, oh, well, you could back it down and ride 50% and riding's fun and whatever. I'm like, yeah, it's a blast, but to me, it's not that much fun unless you're a little bit scared.
Yeah.
And for me, when I push myself to that point, obviously now with a family and stuff going on at home, I'm like, man, I can't be doing that anymore. And I'm really, as much as I enjoy watching and keeping up with it, I'm not interested in riding at 50%. If I'm going to go, I want to go.
Yeah. No, and I completely agree, because like myself, we were so competitive growing up, and that's what we wanted to do. You got to chase it, and and myself a little bit too. And yeah, it's hard to come back, and guys that you whooped for years are now smoking you at a a local race. It really, really digs into your head, and you're like, man, and so I kind of had to have a couple of moments with myself. It's like you kind of almost have to say, like, man, I don't give a shit. Like, I don't care. Like, I just want to go and just throw some whips and just have fun and hang out with the people. And, that's kind of one of the things that I do. But from your standpoint, I completely 100% agree.
It's tough. I would love to one day be able to get back to it. And I think maybe with enough time, maybe one day I'll be able to throw a leg over, just enjoy getting out and cruising around. Obviously still love it, but hopefully we'll get there one day.
If I could take away anything, and I wish I could show somebody, was the battle that you and Futrell had at Rolling Hills. And it was when they had that those two big single rollers before you took the right to go up the whoop section. The little sand whoop section, and you two were jumping that double going down the hill, and you guys just never let off, hit that right-hander, and went straight up into the whoop section. And I think that was the year that I was training with Jim there at Rolling Hills, and we never, ever thought that – it never even crossed our mind with anybody that kind of showed up. And then you two just show up on a random Saturday, Sunday race, and you two are just battling going over that. That was unreal.
Yeah, that was some really good times, and racing with Taylor and then with PJ also, it helped all three of us so much. You just get every weekend so encompassed in the battle. We always ended up doing some things that kind of surprised us, and it's fun to look back on. I still talk to Taylor every now and then, and man, that was some good times. We had one race you were asking earlier about a memorable one. We had one at Parker Valley one time. It was a terrible, terrible mud race, and we were actually on 125 two-strokes. And I remember that I was ahead of Taylor, and we were kind of going back and forth. And at one point, it had gotten so wet, we weren't even jumping anything anymore. So I would try to slide in front of him and roost him on the backside of the jumps to make him run out of tear-offs. And I was able to do that, and then after the race, he come over. He was jumping all over me. He's like, "I know what you were doing. I know what you were doing."
Yeah, no. Hey, man, it's racing, like Taylor would have probably done the same thing,
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, man, that's awesome, man. And no, man, I really appreciate it. Like I said in the beginning, we don't know each other that much, but you were willing to come on here and talk about it. And I know that now talking with you, that you love to reminisce on the old times. And man, it's good to have you here on the Imperative MX podcast. And I'm sure that we'll be talking soon. And yeah, keep in touch, man.
Absolutely, man. I really appreciate you having me on, and you fellas have a good night.
Yeah, man. You as well, Les. Have a good night.
You too.
All right, bye-bye. And it was good to have Les Smith from the York, South Carolina here on the Dirt Industries Custom Graphics Local Legends segment, Imperative MX Podcast, episode number 11. What'd you